Right. Yeah.
All right, are we ready? I will now call to order the May 20th, 2024 City Council and Warren County Board of Supervisors joint meeting. Jackie, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Soames. Ray.
Here.
Dalby.
Here.
Armstrong.
Here.
Beach. Here. Richardson.
Present.
Mayor Erickson.
Present. And I will turn it over to Mark so you can open and.
Okay. I'd like to call to order this joint meeting of the Warren County Board of Supervisors and Indianola City Council. Date is May 20th, the time is 6 p.m. Roll call, please.
Supervisor McIntyre.
Here.
Peter.
Here.
Snell.
Here. We are all here.
All right, well, then we will turn it over to you. I know there's a lot to discuss and a lot of excitement. So we have some visitors here. So of course, if there's anybody who wants to speak, before we go to a vote, we will review.
Awesome. Wonderful. Thank you so much. We're so excited to hold this joint meeting. We're so excited for our county supervisors to be here this evening as well. This has been a day in the making. We're really working hard as a community to build a better working relationship with the county. And we're excited about this brainstorming that has brought such a great opportunity to both entities. And so we're thrilled to be here this evening. I'm just going to quickly go over what we're talking about and share a video with this as part of a press release that we're going to be releasing as well. For many years now, we've been talking about lots of different opportunities. One of those opportunities is what the county plans to do with its public works yard when you relocate your facilities out to the Nevada facility that's under construction right now. And as an industrial area in the heart of our community, this is something that we have great interest in wanting to make sure that it evolves into a great amenity, walkable community right along the Somerset and McVeigh Trail. Something that can bring business and be a destination for our community in the long term. And so something we've been talking about, as well as perpetuating the fuel depot that's a benefit not only to the county going forward with the sheriff's department, but to the city and to the school district and how we can continue to work on those items. Towards that end, a few years ago, the city kicked off an initiative for the 6th Street sub-area plan with participation from the county in developing a great outlook of what this area could do for our community. Because when we transfer government properties into private sector hands, we create jobs, we put properties back onto the tax base, and we create a long-term benefit to the residents in the form of property taxes and sales taxes, which lessens the burden on all of the residents that we serve. So a great opportunity to work together. Last year, we also talked about the Warren County Annex Building and the future of that Annex Building and how we can see convert towards a retail purpose in our community. And of course, that is the historic location for the Indianola Chamber of Commerce and the Warren County Economic Development organization. And we've recently relocated those entities into the impact area of the Regions Bank building. And so there had been a lot of discussion over the last year about what would be the future of this building and how we could work together on that as well. We've also had on the horizon, especially a lot of interest from the Hometown Pride and from the opera of what is the future of the Masonic Temple and how can we have a better gateway between Simpson College and drawing people to our square, really fostering that collaboration with the college, and that's demonstrated through the Town and Gown organization that has been restarted with under the direction of our mayor and our college president, Jay Byers. So we're excited to see that element come forward as well. While all these different items had been discussed over time, concurrently, the county has been talking about its facility needs as the county operations continue to grow. And as the city has been looking at its facility needs for a new public safety building and a new library, we've had many discussions about how we could best move forward. And one of the concerns that we had is how to utilize that great asset in our community, that library, but do so that in a way that wouldn't be impactful to the neighborhood there. And an idea had arisen, and we appreciate the county sharing that idea with us. And that was, could the library be used for the purpose of supporting county operations? It's kitty corner to the administration building and closely located to the Justice Center. And what a great opportunity that would be to provide office space and in a contiguous area to county operations. And how could the city and the county work together? Ultimately, we had talked about a long-term plan for us to be able to, in the short term, trade parcels of property, and in the long term, be able to actually construct a new library, allow that space to be remodeled so that the county can utilize it for office space, and then open up the West Annex building for privatization on the square and turning it into businesses and job creator. Also looking at opportunities to redevelop the Annex building and or the Masonic Temple. But for us, it has opened up the possibilities of what could happen in the 6th Street sub-area plan. This is the area behind Hy-Vee, behind the green elevators, to create jobs, to create tax base, and with absolutely no taxable value right now because nothing is on the tax roll. What a great opportunity is for both entities to see government property go onto the tax rolls and be able to create a long-term destination that could bring people along the McVeigh and Somerset trails to our community. We're so excited to see the trail connectivity through Carlisle to the Des Moines area take place this year. We'd love to see the connectivity tie into Simpson College and to the square, and then ultimately all the way out to Martinsdale and see that connectivity so that we have a loop all the way through Warren County and how that could benefit every community along the way. And every step that we can take to work better together leads us down a path where we can better serve the residents and the communities that we are so honored to be able to serve in our various responsibilities. Of course, the county, the offer that is on the table for the consideration and discussion of our joint boards here is the trading of the 6th Street sub-area plan. That's 5 acres of ground to the city of Indianola with the West Annex building and the Masonic Temple in exchange for the library and its surrounding parcels, along with the property, the home that the city purchased there to increase the square footage and availability for future development around the library. We intend to remove that building and make it so that it's accessible and usable for the county and the city together. All of that was put together into an agreement outlining the parcels that we intend to trade. This is the library parcel right here with the library building itself, the yard area, the parking lot, the alley, as well as the home that the city acquired. In exchange for that, the 5 acres of property owned by the county out in its public works yard, as well as the West Annex building and the Masonic Temple. And I'd like to switch that over to share a video. We have a video press release of this whole thing before turning it back to the mayor and council and board of supervisors for your discussion and action.
The Warren County, a vision of unity, progress, and possibility is emerging. Imagine a city and county united in purpose, bound together by the joint commitment to advance common goals. Visualize a vibrant cultural district centered around the Indianola Public Library, a place where knowledge, creativity, and community converge. Envision a landscape where heritage meets innovation, where opportunities to enhance the quality of life, cultivate economic growth, and better connect our region are right in front of us. This is our shared path to move forward. Together, the city of Indianola and Warren County are forging a plan toward the future built with promise. By reimagining selected city and county-owned properties within the city of Indianola 6th Street sub-area plan and at or close to the Indianola downtown square, our vision represents untapped potential to energize influential change and better support our citizens. After extensive brainstorming, we've identified areas of complementary strengths to maximize our full capabilities, aligned as one. The Indianola Public Library, to relocate and serve as the anchor for planned larger redevelopment along the McVeigh Somerset Trail and North Sixth Street, breathing new life into historically significant property as a hub of cultural enrichment and recreational activities, as well as connecting surrounding cities through the trail system. And Warren County can have staff relocate to the library's current facility, offering greater flexibility, efficiency, and ability to perform the services that provide citizens. All centrally located near the administration building and Justice Center. We are just beginning to embark on this journey. There's plenty of work left to do, and many important discussions to be had. But let's remember that our greatest strength lies in the power of our community. Today, we can mend, uplift, and unleash an era unlike any other. And together, we will.
So this is an exciting time for the city of Indianola and for Warren County, and we're just so excited about the future and all of your willingness to find the commonality in serving our residents. And so with that, I turn it back to you for your discussion, and Mayor, for you to lead out on any action the city may take.
Are there any questions that we clarify beforehand? Do you guys have any questions on your end?
Questions?
We have some visitors here and I'd like to hear them. See some of our friends at the library and some of our library trustees, and some people may just be concerned citizens. So we'd like to hear you if you would like to speak, and we'd invite you to come to the lectern and state your name and your address, and best we can to answer questions.
If you want to speak, go up to the left.
I'm like you.
All right, well, seeing none, on our side, could I get a first and second motion on a resolution authorizing the execution of a contract by and between the city of Indianola and Warren County, Iowa?
We'll move. Second.
Jackie?
Councilmember Sons,
Right.
Ray,
Aye.
Dalby,
Aye.
Armstrong,
Aye.
Beach,
Aye.
Richardson.
Aye.
All right, motion passes 6-0. Mark, I will turn it over to you.
Sure. Is there anybody on behalf of the county that would like to speak? Ask questions? If not, I'd like to open it up to any board member that'd like to make a comment.
I received 5 phone calls on the day that the agenda came out, and then 2 more over the weekend. I would like for us to wait, maybe just 2 weeks, to take our vote, just so the public can digest this. I am for it. I've had, I think it's been half a year to a year to go over it, and so I'm fine, but I don't know if the public is. I would like to ask the board to wait.
If I maybe could share, and maybe this might help to resolve some concerns over the last several days. Well, throughout this process, we've involved the library board of the city of Indianola. And so they've had input as well as an input into the authorship of the agreement. We've also had the opportunity to share this with the Friends of the Library, with the library staff, with the representative of the downtown Indianola merchants, actually with some local businesses, True Bank, one of those today, and had an interview with KNIA and with Amy as well. And at every step along the way, excitement is building within our community to see the great collaboration and the great things that are happening. Especially when people see that video, it just cements the positivity and where we're going as a city and as a county and our future together. So if that helps to resolve any concerns, we do have press releases ready to go and interviews that have been done to get us to where we are today.
Do you have any comment?
No, I'm here, I'm just preparing to vote. I have a resolution. I would encourage us to just stay on pace with this. I appreciate what Crystal is saying, but I would be in favor of just pursuing the agenda item, I would be apt to move forward.
I appreciate your thoughts, Chris. But I think that we've had quite a bit of conversation up to now. Obviously, people are prepared, I think, to move forward. I think the questions will be answered if there are some. I think those issues can be resolved. I am willing to go ahead and make a motion tonight to follow what we've planned for tonight. And I'm assuming somebody will make a second to follow that motion.
Mhm.
So I'm going to, unless you have something else you want to add at this moment. Okay, I'm going to move that we approve the resolution authorizing the execution of a contract by and between Warren County, Iowa, and the city and the city of Indianola, Iowa, as prepared before us.
I'll second that motion.
Roll call, please.
McIntyre,
Abstain.
Peter,
Aye.
Snell,
Aye. So with that, I think that we will also move to the next step to actually adjourn our portion of the meeting, if that's okay. So I will move to adjourn the meeting.
I'll second.
Roll call.
McIntyre,
Aye.
Peter,
Aye.
Snell.
Aye. Thank you.
Back with us, Crystal, I want to thank you for your, I do have a great appreciation for what you've said. I know we're going to get a lot of questions too, so. Can I get a first and second motion to adjourn? Becky? All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Forgot, we're a little less formal. Good night and thank you for coming. We'll take a few minute break to get us back in, and then we will jump into study session.
Just a quick introduction, because I know there's some new people on council since the last time I've been in front of the group to talk through property and casualty insurance. Also brought a peer coworker of mine as well. I'm Brad Bankson. I work with True North Insurance and Weinman Insurance. We are the property casualty insurance broker and risk management provider for the city of Indianola, as well as Indianola Municipal Utilities.
Yep, I'm Scott Weinman in town here. Happy to see everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. So my role on the team is strategy, risk management, reviewing coverages, helping with claims. Scott works with me as the account manager. He's the day-to-day manager of the city's account. Changes that Courtney or Chris Longer put into us are usually what Scott's taking care of. He also works with claims processes, specifically if a claim gets sideways or it's a little more complicated than a normal fender bender. Scott's going to be involved with the claims people, making sure the adjusters are getting a hold of the right people with the city, getting that stuff taken care of. The reason for me coming today is to give the group an update on the property casualty insurance renewal, which does come up on 7/1. The last few years I've been in talking about the renewal closer to the dates. And I think we've all agreed that at that time it's pretty quick to answer and ask questions before the renewal comes around. I will say that as of now, no 7/1 renewals have received their numbers back from ICAP. We're expecting those sometime in the first week of June. When I have those, I'll certainly update the group as to what everything's looking at. I did want to give you an update of what to expect, some changes in the insurance market overall, what we're seeing with our municipality clients and here in the Des Moines area and all over Iowa, truthfully. And then ask and answer question session, understand if there's any concerns that anyone has, make sure that we're focusing on those as well. So before I get started, does anyone have any questions as far as what you want me to focus on? I'll go ahead and get started. So in the document that I handed out, quick executive summary and a brief breakdown of what I wanted to talk about today. Essentially, and I will be doing this similar meeting with the IMU Board of Trustees next week on Tuesday to make sure that they're up to speed on everything as well. I want to talk about the current landscape of the property casualty insurance market, just overall what we're seeing in that space. Current options available for municipalities in the guaranteed cost insurance coverage for the state of Iowa. What the engagement process looks like between our teams and your teams leading up to the renewal decision. Our strategy regarding how and when to market insurance to provide the best outcome for our public entity insurance clients. Comparison of the current Indianola insurance program versus some other options in the marketplace. Expectations for the future and how we can partner to help better finance the risk of the city and IMU in more cost-effective ways. And of course, an opportunity for the group to ask questions. And I would be remiss if I didn't tell the group here that the teams that we work with, both with the city and IMU, are spectacular. We're never waiting on information when it's needed. The renewal process does get cumbersome, and they do a great job of moving it along and getting us the information we need. So kudos to your team, the team here at the city. Courtney's a great risk manager for the city, so butter you up a little bit. So real high level, too in depth because everyone will go to sleep when we talk about the insurance market. Currently in the insurance market in the United States, we are in the longest hard cycle in the insurance market's history. The last one that was nearly this bad went back September 11th, 2001, kicked off a hard insurance market. For cyclical insurance, usually the soft market where pricing is down and capacity is up are the longer of those cycles. A multitude of things from 2017 on has made this hard cycle a little bit longer. Financial markets are a big part of it. Global reinsurance is a big part of it. But claims capacity is a big part of it. Insurance capacity is a big part of it. But we're currently fighting through a hard insurance cycle. I'm sure anyone who's gotten their homeowner's insurance renewal recently has seen their costs go up and maybe deductibles go up. That's a capacity issue. It's what the insurance companies are willing to insure. They're having trouble making money specifically in the property market. So we're seeing that come back to the consumer. So catastrophic losses obviously are a big part of what the insurance industry works with. And when I talk about the insurance industry, the national insurance industry, really important for us, the global as well. A lot of the reinsurance carriers where our insurance companies buy their insurance from are global. They're looking at the catastrophes across the world. And that, along with weather losses, continually increasing convective storm activity being very unpredictable and seems like happening on a weekly basis now. That's causing inconsistent underwriting profits. Most insurance carriers in the property space are running probably a 110 to 112 loss ratio. So for every dollar they take in premium, they're paying out $1.12. I'm not here to advocate for the insurance companies necessarily, but if they don't make a profit, they won't have insurance to offer. So that's part of this hard market. And the inflation factor, we all felt that over the last couple of years, that affects everyone across the board, including insurance companies. Everything they pay for in the claims process is also seeing inflation, which drives up costs. So with that, more of a micro level here, insuring municipalities in the state of Iowa. The state of Iowa back in the mid-80s had a real trouble insuring public entities. No insurance company wanted to play in the space. It was unprofitable and it was a crisis. To offset that crisis, the state of Iowa adopted Chapter 64, which allowed a government risk sharing pool, which turned into ICAP, which is currently who insures the city. Also around that time, EMC, a locally headquartered insurance company, developed the IAMU, the Iowa Association of Municipal Utilities Safety Group program to insure smaller cities. And those two have been the main markets in Iowa since then. There's been some insurance companies that have jumped in and out of the market, but nothing stable. And stable is the key, specifically for public entities. Without stability and being able to insure the taxpayers' assets, trouble. So ICAP and EMC have done a great job while competing against each other, making sure the market remains competitive in Iowa, and more importantly, really broad coverages. They know what insurance in Iowa is for cities, and the coverages they offer basically hit anything that you have from a risk profile standpoint. So really broad coverage. The engagement process for us, when we work with the city and IMU, starts about 150 days out from renewal. And that's when we connect with Chris Longer and Courtney Silliman with our schedules, which is basically, here's every piece of property we have insured in the city. Here's every auto we have insured in the city. What are your payrolls coming up estimated for the next year? And any other exposure or capital changes we need to be made aware of. Once we get that information back, and again, department heads do a great job of making sure that the information comes back accurately. We compile that information, review it, and then send it off to the underwriters at ICAP for their review. ICAP then takes that information and they submit it to their reinsurance carrier. So ICAP as a pool has a layer of insurance that they cover for all their cities in Iowa. Above that level, they buy reinsurance. So if a claim happens to a piece of property, ICAP covers the first $500,000 of that damage. Anything above that $500,000, it goes off to ICAP's reinsurance carrier. Not different than a regular insurance company as well. They buy reinsurance too. So once ICAP gets that review, it comes back from reinsurance and pricing. That's when ICAP gives us the information to disseminate to our public entity clients. 7/1, 4/1, and 1/1 are the three busiest public entity renewal dates. So 7/1's number 2, which means we're basically waiting for all those to turn, which we're hoping is the first week of June. So look for the numbers close to then. And then as far as specifics around the renewal process, our goal is to make sure, one, it's not an asset that needs to be covered. It's not. Number 2, is there assets that we're covering that no longer need to be covered? It's 2 sins in insurance, not having enough of it or buying too much of it. Our goal is to find the sweet spot in the middle, and that's what the team helps us with. So our job on our side, as we're going this, we want to review coverage deficiencies. Is there anything that we're missing that's a possible exposure for the city or IMU? Is the pricing coming in what the expectations are? We have an opportunity to insure many metro cities and a few counties and a lot of cities in the state of Iowa. We have a general idea of what we're looking at when we're coming into renewal season. We're seeing something that's out of whack or is askew from the norm. We're having those questions ahead of time. Why is this different than every other city we see coming in? We'll benchmark our cities as far as how much they're paying for property insurance, what the rate is. Same with the workers' compensation. Are the rates similar? Are the experience credits similar? We benchmark against all that stuff for you ahead of time. And you want to make sure that's fair. You're a city or a business, it's not having claims. Do you deserve the same increase as the business or city that's having multiple claims that's really putting an effect on that overall market? Our argument is no, and that's our conversations with underwriters. Steve knows about conversations with underwriters, so.
Yes, I do.
Yes, you do. And then to give you an idea of what the current state of City of Indianola and IMU is, right now we insure just over $200 million in property. That's the value of property that we insure for the city in IMU. The current rate that you pay for that insurance, that property insurance specifically, is 15.5 cents per thousand. So for every $1,000 that you insure on behalf of the city's residents, you pay 15.5 cents. So that gives you a general idea of what cost of insurance is from a property standpoint. I will say in this marketplace, we have seen continued increases in that rate. Rates are going up. ICAP has done a good job of not having their rates go up at the same rate. We're going to see some rate increase this year, probably in that 10 to 20% range. We also look at the total value as far as an inflation standpoint goes. So we're ICAP's putting 10% inflationary increases on all property across all cities. So it's not city by city specific. Your property will receive a 10% valuation increase to guard against the inflation piece. So the 200 million will roughly be 220 million come around on renewal time. And then something around expectations for the future, and I'd mentioned a little bit in the start. As Indianola continues to grow, as you can see, there's few markets for public entity insurance. ICAP and EMC have been a stalwart here in Iowa. There are other carriers that write cities outside the state of Iowa that have never really played here in the state because of the competition, pricing, and coverage levels were something they weren't willing to compete with. We've seen a few of them jump in and jump out of the market over the years. Those markets are usually the national insurance carriers. I don't know if it's the Chubbs, Travelers of the world, big insurance companies. While they'll look at a city like Indianola, they'll require some pretty high retention, high deductibles, $250,000 deductibles for your law enforcement legal liability and your public officials liability. Similar on the property schedules, they're going to require 3 to 5% wind hail deductibles. We'll get into. So when you look at insuring a city, do you want to trade dollars with an insurance carrier or a risk pool, which you remember, or do you want to take on more of that risk if you know you can control a lot of that risk? And we look at that as, we consider that what's called loss sensitive insurance. You take on higher retentions, fund for those retentions through your management fund. So you have a deductible fund strategy. And instead of trading dollars with an insurance company who in the long run will always win that battle, you begin controlling your insurance yourself. You buy excess insurance above that. That process is usually a 2 to 3 year time frame to talk through and get the city ramped up to do that. And that's a conversation more about what's the control of the safety, the loss control of the city. And we are prepared to move forward on that down the road. The next city that we're looking at that for is probably the city of Ankeny's grown to the size where it needs to start looking into some of that stuff as well. But there are options. And our goal is really to make sure, one, you're not buying too much insurance. And two, if we can get a control in place, we can fund for that and save money over the long term, continuing with a management fund deductible strategy and paying those smaller claims ourselves instead of ceding it off to the insurance company for a premium that will continue to increase over the next 3 or 4 years. The next page, which would be page 9, is a rundown of what our current coverages are at the city of Indianola and IMU. As I said before, property coverage, we're insuring about $200 million in property. That includes buildings, personal property. We have miscellaneous property scheduled. So think of your mowers, trailers, anything above $10,000 we have scheduled on this across the board. And I'm sure you can understand it's a challenge for your department heads to make sure that those schedules are up to date. They do a great job making sure that we're insuring the right stuff. Your average rate was right around 15.5 cents. Your current deductible for property is $30,000. That is something that I'll bring options to the table. What does $50,000 deductible do? What does a $25,000 deductible do? Making sure that the deductible is where you want and the savings offset the amount of deductible that you're taking on. $30,000 is a healthy deductible for a city of your size. On that, you'll see I've highlighted a little piece there under the TBDs, and that's your wind hail deductible. The marketplace in insurance over the last 5 years in the Midwest has started to see wind hail percentage deductibles. ICAP's held off on doing this for quite some time, as well as other insurance carriers in the market because of competition. The wind hail peril is an impossible one for insurance carriers to continue to insure at the same level they're doing now. To offset that, they've implemented wind hail percentile deductibles. What that means is in the event of a wind or hail storm causes damage to your property, minimum deductible you will have is 2% of that specific location's value. So if you have a $10 million building and there's hail damage to that building, the first 200,000 of that on any of the cities that have the insurance. $20 million buildings, $400,000, $5 million buildings, $100,000. So you can kind of see where that's at. That can be troublesome if a large event does come through town because there's a lot of 2% deductibles that you have to take into account. There are two options that cities are doing to combat this. One, they're rolling the dice. All right, we have a 2% wind hail deductible. Hopefully we won't have wind hail damage. Can fund a deductible through your management fund and build it up over a few years, 50,000 for 5 years, put 250,000 in that deductible fund. The third way would be to buy wind hail deductible buy down insurance. Not here to sell you more insurance. But what that is a policy that offsets the delta between what your 2% wind hail was, and it would bring it down to a preset number, whether it's 50,000, 25,000. Essentially buy a policy for that. Have a loss, that loss is a $400,000 deductible that you're due to ICAP. You turn that deductible loss into the wind hail deductible buy down carrier. They then pay the delta of that 400,000 down to whatever you bought it to 50,000. So that can help offset some of the consternation around it. I'm of the opinion that if you're able to, over the next 5 to 6 years, fund a deductible within your management fund and not buy more insurance, knock on wood, you look at the loss runs for Indianola and many cities, wind hail events are very rare. We've modeled what wind hail events look like in central Iowa for the next 100 years. And essentially what that model says, on any given year in central Iowa, for every $100 million of property that you insure, you can expect about $44,000 of wind or hail damage per year on average. Standard deviation of that model is 425,000. So anywhere from that 44,000, zero, up to that 425,000 wouldn't set the model off. That would make sense to the model. Obviously, the higher you get towards that standard deviation, the rarer that event would be. The maximum probable loss this model shows for a class 4 hail area on $100 million in total insured value is 2.2 million. So that means once in every 250 years, this model could show a $2.2 million loss for a city that has $100 million in total property values. Rare events. Recently in central Iowa, back in 2021, we had a hail event come through, and the hail event the city of Johnston came up through West Des Moines, about 14 million in damage to Valley High School. City of Johnston itself had about $880,000. So double that standard deviation. So that would be a very rare event that happened to Johnston. At the time, there was no wind hail deductible. They had a $25,000 deductible that took care of that $880,000. Where that same storm now with their deductible, about $340,000 in the deductible. So it makes a change and it makes a difference on it. I want to make sure that all our cities understand that this 2% wind hail deductible is in place for renewals, and it is not Indianola specific. It's across the board. And both EMC and ICAP are doing percentile deductibles starting this year. So that's the property stuff. You carry general liability. That's your premises liability, bodily injury, property damage. Someone slips and falls on city property. They sue you. You got general liability to defend you and $2 million limits to pay out. You've got professional liability, important for the group here. That is your public officials liability. So if the city were to be sued and the council were to be brought in, you have coverage there that pays for defense for you, as well as any damages that are won by the plaintiff against the city. You also have law enforcement liability. So for your police officers, as they're out doing their work, they have liability coverage up to $2 million per occurrence. There's workers' compensation. is something the city carries with IMWCA, another risk sharing pool. This year, we're doing something a little different that I think will make it easier for the teams, both at the city and IMU. And we're actually splitting it internally because they're on two separate payroll systems. That way IMU is able to do their own payroll and update their workers' compensation. And Unola has their own payroll that has their own workers' compensation. So we know exactly how much each group pays. Policy hasn't split. You still have the same policy. So you still get the scale and scope of having all that premium to offset any losses that you have and to keep your experience modification factor for workers' comp at a fairly low level at 0.78. That's really good. That's 22% better than the norm. So good experience from a workers' comp standpoint. Auto, we're insuring your auto liability when you do cause damage by a city-owned automobile. We also are covering the physical damage for those autos. Currently, we have just under $9.3 million in total value of vehicles insured on your auto policy. And that's at 88 vehicles with 35 trailers on the overall auto schedule. We carry excess liability of $3 million. That excess liability goes above all of those liability coverages that I just talked about. So technically, for general liability, you have $5 million coverage. Public officials and law enforcement legal, $5 million. Auto liability, $5 million. So that is automatic. That goes over any claims that you have against that for judgments or payouts. And we do carry two different crime policies. ICAP offers a $10 million employee dishonesty bond on their policy for free. It doesn't cost you any money. Recently, there's been some talk around bonding for public officials, and we recently did a review, and we have a $300,000 crime bond or public officials crime bond in place for both the city and IMU. So as public officials, you are required by ordinance to carry a crime bond. This satisfies the requirements that your ordinance has, therefore satisfies the chapter in Iowa code requiring that city officials are bonded for the city statute. So we've got that taken care of, and it's pretty inconsequential policy at $1,500 a year, but it is in place and it does all the notes that statute does require. Of course, we have cyber liability, very important. Probably the scariest coverage from a predictability standpoint. What are the claims? The claims are getting bigger. The claims are new every year. Cyber liability is very much a Band-Aid. It's there in the event you have an incident. It's going to help pay for the cost of notifying anyone's records that were taken. It's going to pay, if needed, for the ransom to get your data back if it's encrypted and stolen and you have no way to get that data back. It's also going to pay for your third-party liability if your system getting breached causes damage down the line. Have coverage in place for that. I say this to all clients, public and private. This prevention is worth a pound for cure. As long as you're doing the right things, and we are hitting all the notes that the insurance company requires us to do to be eligible for cyber liability. That multi-factor authentication that we all know and love, extremely important. That's how the criminals are getting in. So as long as we have that in place in the proper areas, we're doing well to protect ourselves, knowing that in the future, if you haven't had a cyber liability claim, it's probably not an if, but a when. The coverage is important for that matter because it's expensive when it happens. The coverage does work, and I've seen it firsthand. And then the last piece on this is your equipment breakdown. So we carry a full equipment breakdown, also known as boiler and machinery policy for the city and IMU. That is written through Cincinnati Insurance Companies. It is a 3-year policy. You're currently will be renewing on year 2 of that 3-year policy. So no premium increases on that. And we insure up to 25 million on that equipment breakdown. So that could be as simple as a copy machine going down or as big as a turbine going down through an equipment breakdown. So that's what we're looking at as far as insurance coverages go for the cities. We do insure a lot of cities, and it's a robust package that you guys do carry. No recommendations as far as changes go. The only thing I would look at down the road, and we'll present it to you, is increasing that excess liability. Seeing so many nuclear verdicts out there, and I'm sure you guys are hearing about it in the news, but accidents that used to be $3 million are now jury awarded accidents of $100 million. And it's pretty inexpensive, relatively speaking, to buy excess insurance. As when ICAP does place the renewal, they'll have automatic quotes for up to $13 million. So you could have 10 million more, and it's usually right in the $20,000 to $25,000 range. We'll present for you guys to make that decision, but something to consider just to make sure that you do have that coverage in the offset that you do get sued. This attorney wins. With that excitement, I want to open it up to questions currently.
I would just say casualty for almost 18 years now. This is nothing surprising. You guys are maybe wondering, property and casualty's taking a beating right now. So hearing and seeing this, it's no shock. Deductibles slowly been coming.
He's over here geeking out on it.
I didn't know I was going back to work.
I worked at an insurance company Steve worked for, so we worked together probably about 9 years ago now it was. And so on that, the toughest market by far for insurance is property. Auto's tough, excess is tough because those are the big claims where the nasty stuff happens, those become expensive. Property is very unpredictable. We've got 50-year-old homes, 50-year-old frame buildings that just can't withstand the convective storms we're getting. We are seeing some leveling out in some of the other lines. The casualty lines, specifically general liability, executive lines, which is the public officials liability, those are seeing some flat renewals. We're not seeing big increases in that space. Workers' comp continues to be the softest line in insurance. You guys are, your payroll's gone up, and you'll probably see a decrease in your overall workers' compensation when it's all said and done. Workers' comp is very soft right now. It's probably as low as it's going to go as far as rates are concerned. And then having good experience in that space makes it even cheaper, I'll say. But 22% basically off the top Indianola and IMU get for being unwell, having good experience, and being a safe culture.
Sounds like buying insurance for your insurance is kind of the trend here, right? Like just going to keep getting worse and worse as we go on.
So it really, pandemic wise, is when it really started seeing an increase. Insurance companies have always bought reinsurance. Just it's never really been talked about. It just happens if you're an insurance carrier. The best way to look at it is, so we'll look at your homeowner's policy or your auto policy. You carry deductible. So you have $1,000 deductible on your homeowner's policy. You have a fire. The first $1,000 of that damage you're taking care of. That's your participation in that claim. The rest of it, your insurance company takes care of. They adjust the entire claim, and then you get the bill back from the contractor. You owe us the $1,000 for the deductible. Not dissimilar to what reinsurance is. An insurance company makes the decision, how much do we want to retain taking in premiums? We have to be profitable, and we'll use EMC because they're a local company. And we have a lot of businesses, a lot of rooftops in central Iowa that we're insuring. And when bad storms come through, a lot of our rooftops get hit. We want to take on 20 million, the first 20 million of those bad storms coming through, and then cede off the rest to a reinsurance carrier. Do we want to do 50 million? It used to be insurance carriers before the pandemic were buying a $3 million retention. So they were taking on, all right, we'll take on the first 3 million. We're willing to buy insurance because reinsurance is cheap, relatively speaking. We're making money in the investment markets. We haven't seen the storm activity we are now. We'll buy more insurance because it's cheap, and we'll use that money and float it and make money in the investment market. Now reinsurance carriers are requiring a minimum of $50 to $100 million retention. So the insurance carrier taking in the premium has that much more of an exposure in the event a catastrophe comes through. And then they cede it off to that 50 million level. So the global reinsurance market, when the economy tanked through the pandemic and then having some giant storms across the United States, alone in 2023, we had 23 separate $1 billion catastrophe losses in the United States. In the 80s, we averaged about 2 of those a year, and we had 23. So it's a math equation, unfortunately. I don't think there's any quick fix. I think it's going to be eventually building codes, strengthening how we're building houses and buildings moving forward. Probably continuing to see cosmetic roof exclusions, where if you have just some dings on your roof, no structural damage, insurance isn't going to buy you a new roof, where it used to buy you a new roof in that case. So it's tough right now, no question. the goal for us is one, to make sure that our public entity clients have the coverage in place in case that catastrophe happens, because it is the assets of the taxpayer.
I'm good.
Three things. Number one, I thought state,
We've got about a minute, sorry.
that's what I'm saying. But, and you can get these answers to Ben if you want. I thought the state put a cap on insurance liability for accidents and claims. I don't know if that was only for the state, but I thought they insured also, they put that cap on for cities and counties. Get that to Ben. Second question is, if we build structures to wind standards of ICC 500 or whatever the case may be, is there not a deductible for that? And then third question is, are $1 million on cybersecurity enough? So those get.
That's one question too. Brad, something you said that was intriguing to me is the possibility of self-insurance, or it's a portion.
Yeah.
It is one thing that we've done in the medical realm that has really softened our hits on increases. Does the council want me and Courtney to work with Brad and Chris to explore options on self-insurance? We've created a buffer in one, and this is maybe an opportunity for us to soften the edges on another. It's something I didn't think of until you brought it up.
I think it's worth exploring. I just don't want to open us up to liability or under insurance in somewhere. And I know we found that in like the landfill that we were highly under. So I just want to make sure that if that's the route we go, that we're going to be.
It's a long, I wouldn't say long process, but arduous. It's not something we would dive into. Next year, we're going to self-insure. We're going to make sure the funding's there, the mechanisms are there. And
Let
honestly,
me back that up one step. This insurance pool, we brought in Norwalk, Carlisle. You want to talk about regionalism and do that? Is that a possibility? You might want to look at that and ask them if they have any interest in that as well. Simple standpoint. People and more things, maybe everybody's called.
We'll explore all options and bring it back to you for your consideration.
Perfect.
thank you all for your time. I know it's valuable, so I appreciate it. Be in touch if you have any questions. Be good.
Thank you, Brad.
We'll take about a 1 minute break real quick and then we'll come back to regular session. We gotta wait for our officers anyway, so. Call to order the City of Indianola Council meeting for May 20th, 2024. If we would rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would you call the roll?
Councilmember Solms? Present.
Here.
Alby?
Here.
Armstrong?
Here.
Here. Richardson? Mayor Erickson?
Present. Well, this is an exciting evening for us as we swear in 5 new officers. I will have them all come up at once and we'll do the oath. And then when we are done, Jackie has a form for you to sign and you can take pictures with your family. I would call up Police Officer Curley, Police Officer Nico Pelkey, Police Officer Michael Babcock, Officer Nyan, is that right? Nyan? Baker and Police Officer Joe Teagles. Told me Teagles. He told me too. And I still messed it up. And a special note, we have number 1 and number 2 out of the graduating class. So if you guys would like to identify yourselves, our number 1 and our number 2.
I'm number 1.
Well,
Like that.
It's excited to tell Baker that he was number 2, first loser, right? That's what he said outside. But hey, we are excited that you went to Indianola. So I will have you repeat after me. Is there a way you want us to stand, Captain?
You're good. You just do your thing, Mayor.
Okay, all right. So raise your right hand and you'll repeat after me. So when I say state your name, don't say state your name, state your real name. Okay, so I state your name.
Baker.
That was okay. Let's try to get a little bit more. Moving on. Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution
That I will support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States,
and the Constitution of the State of Iowa,
Constitution of the State of Iowa,
and that I will faithfully
and that I will faithfully
and impartially,
impartially,
to the best of my ability,
as of my ability,
discharge all the duties
discharge all the duties
of a police officer,
of a police officer,
of the City of Indianola,
City of Indianola,
Iowa, as now or hereafter required by law.
as now or hereafter required by law.
Congratulations. We are so excited to have you.
Yeah, I'm ready for singing, I can tell you that.
So we have a event coming up next week, Captain. We need more dunk tank people, so
Okay.
we'll be reaching out.
Sir.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll get a picture, and if your families want to come up, if they're here, they can take a with this beautiful. Here, Captain, why don't you get in there?
Need a too short guy.
No.
Oh. We're gonna stand there.
And then we'll.
Out.
You'll come in, individual meetings. I think they have picked excellent.
That chair out of the way.
Oh, yeah.
See now, everyone's.
Jimmy.
This weekend, Saturday morning. It's 130-degree fever. So we did go out and blind.
Yes, I guys can leave.
Yeah, you just won't make it.
I have a chair.
That's all right. That's all right.
Sure, you're gonna want to sit back down.
Maybe. So with the addition of these 5 officers, we are now fully staffed, which is very exciting.
Still shy.
No, still shy 1? Okay, very close, very close.
I'm on top of it.
One more.
I thought we were full, I thought we had. Yeah,
I remember the last meeting.
I was sick. Can we give me a pass? I was.
I suppose that's one time.
attention.
Thanks for that.
Love it too.
Clear it up. Thank you, gentlemen, and stay safe. Moving on to public comment. If there's anybody in the audience that would like to address the council, you can come now and this is for anything not on the agenda. Seeing none, moving on to the consent agenda. Are there any items that need to be pulled?
Good.
I was gonna say, I'd like to pull H.
Item B and
Okay, so items pulled are B, H, and L. Can I get a motion for all items on the consent agenda with the exception of items B, H, and L?
move second.
Any questions? All right. Anything special to add to any of that, Ben? On those ones that weren't pulled, nothing. All right, Jackie?
Councilmember Dolly?
Aye.
Armstrong?
Aye.
Richardson?
Aye.
Jones? Aye.
I,
Sorry.
Oh, no, moving back
The
to,
thing I would say about that is we did approve the resolution just now on setting the regular meeting in time for. Was that correct? June.
and we will do our study sessions after. Circling back, can I get a motion, a first and second on item B, approval of claims? And Councilmember Richardson, did you have a reimbursement? Is that why you pulled it?
Yes.
Okay, anything else? All right, Jackie?
Councilmember Richardson? Jones? Aye. Ray?
I,
Dolly?
Aye.
Armstrong?
Aye.
Beach?
Aye.
Richardson? Sorry.
Yes, okay. I can tell you why it's abstained. How about that?
All right, so I need a first and second motion on the resolution approving an employer paid premium health insurance premium holiday. Discussion.
Yeah, I just thought maybe we would have a discussion regarding kind of what Ben provided us in the update. Our current motion to what IMU ended up.
Needing to include the employees as well.
Just wanted to open up for discussions.
I'm sorry, was this included in Ben's email yesterday?
The weekly report.
The weekly report? Yeah, so I hadn't got to that. Can you expound upon that, please?
Sure. So ultimately, the council and the board of trustees got together and visited and talked about our 820 fund and that it's a very healthy fund and we should work to try to bring that down. Ways that we could bring that down, of course, included a payment holiday. And a payment holiday basically is we're not funding it for that month out of the various departments. And the option is, do we also give it a holiday to the employees themselves? In the month of December, we did include the employees because it was kind of a holiday bonus type of thing. And it's not a huge amount that they're paying, but it is their contribution to the insurance that was waived in the month of December. The discussion that was had at the board of trustees is whether or not to include employees of that. We did have a discussion with the staff, IMU staff and city staff, about the fact that the council is going to be looking at potential payment holidays quarterly going forward. And there is some concern about the yin yang of employee paychecks going up and down as they are either contributing or not contributing. Second, creation of expectations that may necessarily be sustainable over the long term. And third, the fact that we're going into union negotiations and just having a steady platform with our insurance might be advisable. At the same time, it is something that IMU did approve. And so going forward, inconsistent with what IMU is going forward with, does create inconsistency amongst employees from one side to another, and also draws down the 820 fund at different rates. And so it's really an option. I really considered there's 4 options for the council to consider: approving it as is, which is employer only; following suit with IMU, which is to approve it, at least this one, as employer and employee; approving it employer only as and then asking IMU to reconsider, or not approving it at all. That's always an option as well. So that's what I summarized in the email, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
And can I ask from our joint meeting that we had months ago now? Specifically, I didn't go back and watch it. What did we,
It was not discussed in that meeting. It was really discussed at the staff level. So the council just addressed whether you have a.
we addressed it for December, right? And the potential to keep going down this path forward, but there was not a specific direction given in that joint meeting as to.
Employer, right.
We did, Ben said we did give the direction to do the June premium. With the exception of we did not break it down whether we do employer, employee only, and I does create expectations if we can't maintain this year.
Right now, the fund is healthy, but it does set all those three things up.
I see to you.
I personally think we just go ahead and do the employee as well this time. Make it very clear that maybe just employee. Think that that's something that we can do. I think that blends a couple of other issues that have been brought up perhaps a little bit, and so find this, and then we're going to offer a friendly amendment.
You would offer an amendment to add the employee.
Be okay with that?
Yeah, I just have one or two more questions real
Oh,
quick.
that's fine.
And maybe you don't know, it's been on top of your head, but. You know, I imagine people can figure out the bonus here or there that shows up with their paychecks going up and down. That one doesn't do a whole lot for me, respectfully, but. You know, I do think we need to be careful about setting expectation and precedent going forward. You know, we spent a lot of time. Talking about the COLA raises that just went through and that. You have where IMU landed on that. I don't have that off the top of my head.
They did the same as us.
They match us on those for their employees, the cost of living, the step.
The cost of living is the same according to their board. They followed suit with us on the cost.
Sure. No, I mean, I think we're certainly. Where you're at. I think there's probably a lot of merit to. We don't want to create disproportionate. I think it would be before we go back and ask them to change. I just think it's. Further telling to all of us that we need to figure out how to work together better with IMU, municipal authority, right? To make sure that we're not putting their board or us and ultimately our employees in bad situations going forward. I mean, I'm on board with what Steve has proposed, but I hear more of the head of IMU and the head of our city staff here that we need to figure this out and not be divided.
I think the last thing that we want to do is be pulled into this politically after meetings and having IMU Board of Trustees calling us. And in fact, the whole council, we were a little caught off guard and unsure of what was going on because it wasn't on our agenda yet. And while I knew it was on an upcoming agenda, that wasn't common knowledge because Jackie and I are constantly and looking for the future. I apologize that all of you got brought into that in the calls. Appreciate our trustees though. Going forward, I think we can do this a little bit better and hopefully.
And that's why I'm sure it's clear in the meant that it's not an expectation going forward. We do.
I think also in the future, sure that we specifically address that in the joint.
Okay.
I think the second needs to, you accept it as a second.
I was the second. I was the second.
You're okay. They are. Well, I know, but there's.
Who made the motion?
We just need someone to make an amendment here.
Make the motion to amend it to include.
Councilmember Johnson.
Okay, I'll second it.
There we go. Any other discussion? Okay, Jackie.
Councilmember Dolly.
Aye.
Armstrong.
Aye.
Beach.
Aye.
Richardson. Stones.
Aye.
Slade.
Aye.
Okay,
That was clear that. Clear it's one time.
moving on to item L, which is the first and second motion on a resolution approving a change order number 6 in the amount of $19,744.36 and a payment application number 7 in the amount of $388,567.70 for the Hillcrest Avenue reconstruction project. Steve, you pulled this one and so
Well, it's probably no.
I think Ben, tell us about this change order.
Yeah. I'm okay with the change. If you read it in your packet. With what the contractor did, what I would like us to make sure we do is have a little more strength in some of our change orders of some of the things that come in front of us, especially in some of the designs that we do, and make sure that we don't automatically approve things. And I'm not saying we did in this case, but these requires a cost to the city, not only where somebody comes in and does this, that the contractor generally gets a little bit more than they would have gotten had they bid this in the package. And so just ask staff and to diligence in this particular area and make sure that these things are all taken care of ahead of time before.
Jackie? Who did the second? I'm sorry. Oh, you did, okay. Yes, all right, I forget, I already forgot who did it anyways.
Councilmember Richardson.
No.
Jones. Gray.
Aye.
Dolly.
Aye.
Armstrong.
Aye. All right, we will move on to council reports and you have a treasurer's report. I get a first and second motion to receive and file the April 2020 treasurer's report.
Second.
Any questions for our esteemed treasurer, Mr. Shaw, who's here this evening?
Put together quite a memorandum and so I've taken a look at it. The only thing I did was call her, maybe suggest that she consider explaining the differences, why we differed on the revenues, the expenses. And I know that we're going to amend the budget for 23-24, but I only suggested, I didn't never tell her that we had to do that.
I want to say thank you, Roxanne, for doing that. That was very, very. I don't know, is there any, you want to go ahead and explain some of those things? That'd be great.
Roxanne on the spot a little bit. But
Welcome to your first meeting.
yes.
Everyone. Well, for the funds that were over 83%, which was kind of the benchmark because it was the April 2024 meeting, so we're 10 months in. I evaluated all of those accounts and practically, well, every single one of those funds is on the fiscal year 24 budget amendment that will be presented here in the public hearing tonight. I also evaluated the funds that had expenditures that were 30%, under 30%. Most of those were, they just hadn't been spent yet. Or one of them in particular, it was a transfer out that's not done until June of 2024. And then I also gave an explanation to the 4 funds that are currently in the negative. And all of those will have transfers in or additional funding to bring them into the positive before the end of the year. But I can obviously provide more information. I just wasn't sure initially what you all wanted to see. So please give me your insight and I can provide as much detail as you possibly could want. And also I have an open door policy. So if you ever need to come and see what I'm doing, just let me know. Anything else?
Roxanne has been doing great. We sure do appreciate her talent from.
Absolutely, Roxanne, we really do appreciate you.
Well, thank you.
Which building are you located in?
Here,
Here, okay.
here, in Andy's old office.
Okay.
Yep.
The ray of sunshine too. She really is so smiling. I don't think the woman doesn't smile, so. All right, any other questions on that? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item B, I need a first and second motion to receive and file the April 2024 EMS billing activity report.
Second.
And Tucci is here this evening. He's getting up. Counting down his last meeting till the end of the year, I think. At retirement, so let him run.
We are putting everything off until the last meeting.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's going to be a killer. It's going to be a long one.
All right.
It's getting closer.
So Chief Shear, make sure someone else sits in for you that night.
I'm saying he won't be there, so.
You give him too much of a notice on that one. It's our way of wanting to save you, keep you here.
Questions on any?
Well, I guess we're gonna be easy on you. Until next time.
Well, just thanks to your team, thanks to your team for working on that,
Yeah, that was
Absolutely.
interesting.
The driver, okay.
Good.
I hadn't heard. I
Very
just
lucky.
That was,
drove by right after.
24 hours to clean it up too. Pretty bad. Felt everyone involved in it.
All the hazmat stuff.
All right, so item C, we have, Councilmember Raven, Councilmember Richardson, participated in the Washington DC trip with the Des Moines Partnership. So I ask you to take about a minute or two and tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I'll go first. This was my first trip out there and I thought it was a very eye-opening trip. I came back with a lot of thoughts from it. Sure, Steve might share some of the nitty-gritty. You know, we spent our time out there meeting with different elected officials and their staffs and networking with a lot of different cities from the Greater Des Moines Partnership, as well as different business entities that participate. It is a large chamber of commerce. I think the biggest takeaway for me out of this is I think it's a really good thing that we're part of, and I think we need to utilize it better going forward. It really is meant to be an economic development meeting more than anything. There's benefits to, being around the culture and understanding part of that, but it was very eye-opening to see the cities and the organizations that came with the plan and executed that plan in a very meaningful way. I think a lot of this ties back to even what we started tonight, doing being with the county, that we have to do better than just doing one project at a time. We have to make sure that if one project is finishing, we got another one ready to go. And as our capacity grows, maybe we end up at a point where we have 2 or 3 goals. Fine. But that's how we increase our tax base, increase our offerings to the citizens of this community. And we need to be there talking about projects already that are potentially 10 years in the future. That's what cities are doing, and they're lobbying and they're making that issue known and giving people time to be ready for that. We have 2 highways that run through town, and there are specific projects to both of those that we should be talking about already. I've talked with Ben a little bit and with Rachel, I'm on Florida County Economic Development, and that by the summer, we need to start planning for next year already. A better agenda. Norwalk did a tremendous job this year, and I thought it was great. Just like tonight's meeting, healthy Warren County is good for us. Healthy Norwalk is good for us. And they came with a very, very good plan and executed it very, very well. I thought it was really impactful. We'll be part of that. And I think that going forward, even if there's not imminent projects, we need to have that next set ready to go. Talking to the people that guide that ship and making sure that we are in the conversation for some of those state and federal dollars that we've allocated out.
I would agree 100%. I think it was nice getting a chance to meet the entire Norwalk delegation and all of them. Spending some time with Supervisor Schnell as well. And I think those kinds of things are critically important. Sometimes don't to do that. I think anytime we can do an educational trip, it's important. I understand that concern some folks about the taxpayer dollars, but Josh and I had a long conversation about return on our investment, and we get that return. And 5 or 6 or $7,000 to spend on a trip. How do we make that happen? How do we do that? And you're right, we gotta be thinking 5 years, 7 years, 10 years outside the box. You know, what roads, what sewer, what things are out there. And that's exactly what Norwalk was doing. They talked about a project that's probably 7 years, 6 to 7 years. We gotta be doing that. We gotta get a CIP put in place. And I don't. Well, probably not to Ron's prize, but I ran into somebody out there I knew. Basil Gooden, who is a undersecretary for the rural development, his chief of staff was Sarah Deach. Sarah, my legislative assistant at the Iowa House of Representatives in 1998. She was a graduating senior at Simpson and spent that session with me. And so I met her afterwards and I talked to Ben and Josh ahead of time about, well, can we look at USDA, what we're doing. Basil Gooden was the undersecretary for rural development at USDA, and of course he's in USDA. There's a whole bunch of names. I gave those names. She sent me an email probably within an hour. Iowa that are the key people in the Iowa delegation for USDA, and they responded to me within 3 hours. I've got all those names. We're going to set up a meeting with USDA to see what funding is available for fire, EMS, but there's all kinds of other funding, housing portfolio, healthcare for rural fire and EMS grants, loans for equipment, things. There's also money for wastewater treatment programs, although we have a new facility now, but what we have in the future, trails and waterways. And so FEMA does grants too. And I reached out to Sherry Jones, who's the Senator Grassley's contact, and she sent us a dashboard of all some programs. Folks, if we can get 1 or 2 of those grants that come in at $100,000 or $200,000, it makes $7,000 spend. That was one of the things we got. And then that was the Grant Navigator staff. Staff's lap and where we go from there.
Moving on to item D, council committee reports.
Mark. Legislative Policy Committee, you have in front of you. I went to that meeting on Wednesday this last week in Cedar Rapids. These are all the bills that were passed out of the state legislature that have some little bit or a lot to do with cities. I'm not going to run through those, but again, if you've got concerns and things, there's 2 things that are going to come out of this. Number one is that the Legislative Policy Committee of the League of Cities is going to be much more aggressive in taking a proactive stance at this legislative session. So what they're asking for from us, and I don't know if you want to send it to me or if we want to send it to staff and then have them compile and send it on, we can do that as well. But if you have anything as you look through these that thinks need to be tweaked, other things that aren't mentioned here need to be added. I know there's some things with House File 718 that we probably want to take a look at and see if we can change and correct. That's kind of where we are, and that's what that Legislative Policy Committee meeting, 4 hours worth, was really all about, is how do we make this more, this city's more involved in the proactive approach of state legislature. So that's really what came out of that particular session. But again, if you've got some things that you read through this, some things or ideas, why don't you get them to me and I'll send them on to staff. And I've already put down a couple ideas. Ben had a couple of ideas. We talked about as well. Fire districts, how we can go ahead and maybe start looking at those with taxes. That's already something that's out there and available. Also, the one thing that Charlie brought up to us was that the IDOT changed their rules on distances between intersections to 600 feet on highways, which impacts us greatly because most city blocks are 300 feet. An issue with a couple of developments in our community. And so that's one issue that we've kind of taken a look at too. I also was at a CERPA meeting on the 16th. There are a number of things going on there, but what I would say is this: Warren County can apply for TAP funds to continue the trail from R63 to R57. That's available, but you're gonna get that sometime here soon by July. I need to talk to the county if that's something anybody's interested in. And the STGB, which is this block grant, the Surface Transportation Block Grant by removing Polk County from the funding, which we did this last year. So now the MIPA group is all the counties and all the areas around Polk County. Removing that group funding, we saw a 19 increase in our yearly funding for this group. We'll see an increase in the amount of STDG money dollars, which I think he'll. Part of that game, so we should see more money. My reports.
Thank you. We will move on to the mayor's report. I don't have much. I'd like to give a couple of thank yous. The first one would be to Caleb Brown back there. Caleb was really responsive last week and really appreciated that you were out in the field like before 8 a.m. before I was even out of bed and problem solved. So really appreciate that, Caleb. Officer Hackett, as well as Community Service Officer. Both they led our state boys and girls track teams out of town last week, on Thursday and Friday. See, I do have a Des Moines partnership, as you said, I'll do more. I have a blog coming up regarding Bike Fest, 1,500 word blog on Bike Fest. Long blog, right? And then Officer Stevers, for the Silver Alert. With our flock cameras that was able to help Dementia Man reunite with his family. So that was absolutely amazing and proved that those cameras have a good value here. Thank you, Chief, for all you do. Pretty much all of it was your department. Good job, Caleb. And then I need a first and second motion on approval of the reappointment of Don Gooddale to the Library Board of Trustees for a term beginning July 1st, 2024 and ending July 1st, 2030. Seems like so long away, 2030. Thank you. Any questions? Jackie?
Councilmember Sons.
Aye.
Dave.
Aye.
Colby.
Aye.
Armstrong.
Aye.
Aye.
Richardson.
Aye.
All right, welcome back aboard, Dawn. I know she'll be a great addition. Once again, she was already on there. Moving into public consideration, we have old business and fiscal year 2024 budget, and I need a first and second motion to open the public hearing regarding the second amendment to the fiscal year 24 budget. Jackie?
Councilmember Colby.
Aye.
Armstrong.
Aye.
Beach.
Aye.
Richardson.
Aye.
Jones. Dave.
Aye.
All right, Roxanne. Oh.
Was in August of 2023. The public hearing notice incorporated the IMU budgeted revenues and expenses. So if I just take out those numbers, this budget is 1% change of the overall budget. There is changes, revenues of 557,719. I categorize this by the Department of Management public hearing notice. And I highlighted the bigger changes within the budget amendment. There are some smaller changes, but bigger changes is what I wanted to highlight. So, for instance, in licenses and permits, there was increased licenses and permits for the general fund and street capital projects. Use of money and property, that category covers interest and rental revenue. And there was increased rental revenue for the City Hall building project and the wellness campus. For intergovernmental, we actually reduced revenues for that per Charlie for the Square Streetscape project. The charges for service, we increased the sewer service fees for the sewer capital projects fund. Special assessments, we had additional special assessments for various funds. And miscellaneous, we reduced and contributions of the wellness campus. It was just a high number that we had, and we just have not been getting the contributions that we thought we would. And then other financing sources, we ended up getting a grant for fire that was called the Keep Iowa Beautiful Grant. For expenses, Public safety, we had a large increase in workers' compensation for fire. And then there was an audit for ambulance, the PCG CMS audit. As far as public works, we had slightly elevated employee wages for the superintendent of public works, as well as benefits, engineering costs and materials and supplies. We actually reduced the expenses because of the employee selections. We had budgeted as a family plan, but it was actually the person selected a single plan. And then capital projects, we increased engineering costs and traffic signal expenses, as well as moving the Boston Avenue final payment from fiscal year 23 to 24. And then lastly, the business type activities, which incorporates for a lot of the different it incorporates the sewer fund, the stormwater utility fund, recycling fund, wellness campus capital fund, the sewer revenue bonds fund, the health insurance fund, maintenance fund, and vehicle and equipment fund. And there were several things that were adjusted for that, including the Franklin Sewer Project, the facilities division, as well as adding employees' pay and benefits, the Quail Meadows lift station generator, and the IWC building maintenance expenses. So overall, I think this was a pretty good budget. Most of the departments are staying well within their budgets, but unfortunately, everything is going up. So we had to adjust for some of those things. So any questions? Sorry, I'm lengthy.
And this is great. A wealth of knowledge, so we appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
Anybody from the public to speak? No, can I get a first and second motion to exit the public hearing? Jackie?
Member Dolby,
Aye.
Armstrong.
Aye.
Beach.
Aye.
Richardson.
Aye.
Solms.
Aye.
Moving forward on item B, I need a first and second motion on the resolution approving the second amendment to the fiscal year 24 budget. Any more questions? Jackie?
Councilmember Richardson.
Aye.
Solms. Wade.
Aye.
Dolby,
Aye.
Armstrong.
Aye.
Beach. Aye.
To item number 2, which is South K Street paving project. I need a first and second motion on the second reading of an ordinance establishing of street grades for South K paving.
So moved.
Questions?
My only question is, I mean, I've read through it, and this is the second time reading through it, but maybe why do we have to approve the elevations?
That's a good question on the elevation part of it. I'll turn to our engineer, but as far as, I did want to report, well, maybe he's coming up, but the council did direct and ask questions with regard to the additional asphalt.
Sure, yeah.
And so I may want to be prepared and talk about those really quickly. First of all, the grade is what, and people talked about the grade, why that needs to be done by ordinance. I'm not exactly sure about that part of it, but the grade itself does require the tapering into the different driveways and the impact on the overall amount of driveway and everything that is needed. When the council asked for additional information about additional asphalt, one of the unintended consequences of that we didn't really envision is the fact that we would need to lower the grade in order for the asphalt to still stay and to taper properly. That would require the excavation of a tremendous amount of soil and exponentially raises the cost of adding the extra asphalt at this time. We also wanted to make sure that the additional asphalt didn't put in jeopardy the bidding relationship we had with the various contractors, because we had the low bidder that won the bid, and by changing the components of the bid, it very well could adjust that and take it from one contractor to another. And so we were a little bit reluctant and worried about that aspect of it too. And of course, the third aspect is the fact that assessments are based on the bidding and what the council put into its scope statement and how it was going to be applying those assessments, which was very specific about the amount of asphalt, the amount of subbase and all that. For those three reasons, we are recommending that we don't increase the amount of asphalt at this time. However, if the council wants to consider setting funds aside for the installation of asphalt at some point in the future, you sure can. That's just a budgetary aspect. And it's always good to wait a year or two to be able to see things settle out. Maybe even wait as long as 7 or 8 years and then extend the useful life. But any application of any maintenance dollar needs to be done in comparison to how those dollars could be spent towards maintenance in other areas of the city in general, and then for you to prioritize them at that time. And so making sure we have a comprehensive CIP plan for all of the road maintenance is really important. So we recommend not doing any additional asphalt this time, but then why the grade? I think that's the Iowa thing. I'll turn that to.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank Council. This is Akhilesh Park, Public Works Director. You may have noticed we don't do this on any other projects, road construction projects. Now, this is an assessment project. You know, we did this on East Iowa Avenue too. There's a step of processes that's required, and at the recommendation of Alders and Cooney, we are doing this, establishing the street grades. We did this on East Iowa. We're doing this on K Street. Now, when do you do this, whether it's before or after the project, that's a different topic. But at the recommendation of Alders and Cooney, we are basically establishing the grade ordinance this time. Anything else?
So it has to do with the assessment.
Yeah, absolutely.
A little bit more of a history lesson. The city establishes the grade even when like a developer, talking about the old days, a developer would establish the grades to the elevations established by the city. So even if a private company would construct it, it was to a grade established by the city. Kind of fallen out of practice. But for an improvement that's assessed, that's a resolution of necessity, that the direction is specifically from the council, it completes the public process so that it's well known that that's where that road is, that application.
Make Iowa.
So I kind of started this by asking the questions about scope, and I'm still very comfortable with what we initially laid out. I think it was the right project, and certainly recognize some savings that allow us to look at some other projects on that front. I think we would just be shooting in the dark if we try to put some number aside to save future maintenance on this. It goes back to what we talked about earlier, that when or do we have some type of capital improvement plan specific to streets where we should be able to be looking at what's coming for the next, I don't know what the 5 years, 3 years, how we can do that so we can make sure that if we're supposed to come back and seal this in a year or two, and that we have that accounted for as we're reviewing the budgets. And ultimately, we can help prioritize for staff as this plan is out there. You know, knowing different projects that are coming, that it might make sense to flip-flop them in a year, and basically be a lot more proactive instead of reactionary. Is that something that
we actually do have CIP plans for streets, for sewer, for storm drainage. Those get adjusted based on the impact on the roads over time and what we're seeing out in the field after a hard winter or whatnot. The big deficiency where we're really struggling, I think, Akhilesh would jump all over this, is actually CIP for maintenance itself. So your routine maintenance going forward, which all the roads in the city were put through and evaluated on their quality level and when they should be replaced. And right now it's about a $1.5 million deficiency per year for us to be able to maintain those. So it's really planning for how do we build that up and address the maintenance going forward.
And in regards to because asphalt is going to be new for our maintenance and our streets team, ensuring that they have the proper training, the proper tools. They may need to come back to us, and also hesitant to set that money aside right now, just knowing that, you know, first couple of years should be good. We just have to maintain it, but we have to give staff, and I think they'll do an excellent job.
Yep.
We give them everything they need.
We will definitely, absolutely, we'll definitely make this year's budget process was more robust than previous. And going forward, we're going to continue that effort to make sure that we're addressing our asset replacement needs.
A little bit better info as we get into the next budget season.
Mhm.
You guys will have it. Going out.
These are things that we can prepare now, not necessarily wait for next budget season in general.
Excellent. Look forward to it next meeting.
The other side of that issue is that we don't know the amount of truck traffic on that road as it gets paved, and what other kind of traffic it, well, and then how well that stands up to. I think one of the, and I agree totally with what we're saying, I just think that staff hopefully will, as part of that CIP process, though, get back and get some reevaluations of when's the best time here, an optimal time, because we are dealing with something that's fairly new in the community, and so we're gonna have to make sure that that stays. That's gonna be an issue that we're keeping, and again, just monitor it, see how it's doing, and then we come back, but we kind of continually upgrade what the costs are gonna be.
Well, asphalt isn't as long in its duration.
Right.
It's easier in its maintenance over time through, fog coats, slurry seals, regret,
Back to east, to west Iowa, we thought we'd only get 12 years out of that. We got almost 20 years out of that. So, it was maintained a couple of times. And I think that helps. So.
Sounds good.
Let's not forget to keep the other out.
Yep.
Throughout that whole
That process, yes.
All right, any other questions?
I would just want to reiterate, we bonded X amount, which is above what the project was gonna cost, and then the bids came under what we thought, so now is a great time to start that CIP process to make sure we do withhold funds back so that we can do proper maintenance before it's too late, so.
And do we have all the equipment that we need to maintain this? Ready?
Well, it's like anything, it's just a little bit different. Asphalt's a little bit different. But even smaller communities, they don't typically have the asphalt laying machines themselves. Sometimes they go in partnership with other cities. I know in my last community, one city would have that equipment. Each city would throw a person in, and each city would pay for their oil, and they would go around and asphalt as a team all the way through. There's a lot of contractors out there that can do spot work. Of course, you can do cold patches and things like that as well. Asphalt over concrete is another option as well to make things smoothed out and resurface those concrete bases. You have a strong foundation and make it a great road going forward. So there's lots of options and everything's on the table, and we have great engineers to help us out figuring out which direction to go forward.
Jackie? Councilmember Beach?
Aye.
Richardson?
Aye.
Jones? Dave?
Aye.
Dolly?
Aye.
Armstrong?
Aye.
Item B is a consideration of waiving the third reading of an ordinance establishing street grades for South K Street paving project. Second motion.
So moved.
Any other questions on it?
This just keeps it so their project can start on time.
When was that expected date? Do you have an idea?
It's early June.
Don't give me an exact date, give me a rough around.
Yeah.
Early June, all right, because I know things always change with weather.
June meeting for the third reading.
Okay, early June. I think that will make a lot of people happy. And then item C, you've kind of given us a lot of that was an update on the South K.
Take the
Oh, I'm sorry, Jackie. Got too ahead of myself.
Councilmember Armstrong?
Aye.
Beach?
Aye.
Richardson?
Aye.
Jones? Dave?
Aye.
Dolly?
Aye.
Item C is an update on South K Street inquiries for the May 6th, 2024 meeting, which Ben kind of highlighted about that. Are there any other questions regarding that? Seeing none, we'll move on to new business. Item number 1 is a vicious dog, and so we had a quick hearing on this. I need a first and second motion to open the public hearing in accordance with chapter 56, section 5605 of the city code concerning seizure, impoundment, and disposal of vicious animals.
Moved.
Jackie?
Councilmember Armstrong?
Aye.
Beach? Aye. Richardson?
Aye.
Jones? Dave?
Aye.
Dolly?
Aye.
Great, so we have some of our officers here this evening, who are involved in this, and we will give the owner as well an opportunity to speak to. We'd like to start this, Bethany. Bring your officers up and we'll walk through what happened on that day. So we had, number of officers report to this, but was, Detective Michael Chia, Shift Supervisor Ty Sparks, Diane Baker, and you took a bite, and Community Service Officer Kevin both. So we will let you tell us about the events of that day.
So on May 3rd, 2024, I was dispatched to 1402 South G Street for a report of a dog bite as well as a barricaded subject. Upon my arrival, I made contact with a homeowner who advised that the individual who was in possession of the dog and also had barricaded himself in the garage. And we were also advised by dispatch that individual had a warrant out of, I believe, Warren County for probation violation. We approached the garage, made contact with the individual. He at that time did have the dog in his possession. I instructed him to put the dog in the garage. We advised him that he was going to be taken under arrest for the warrant. He resistive. As we were struggling with him, he kicked the door open, releasing his dog, which he was told multiple times not to do. And then the dog was biting me in the process of arresting that individual.
And you were not the first person that got bit that day, correct?
Correct. The homeowner was originally bitten that day, and that's the original call out for as to why we were there.
And my understanding is this individual, it's a co-owned dog, two owners, but this individual is homeless, was.
Yes.
Ask a question.
Yeah, we'll have you come up at after they're
I
done.
got a question for the officer about the home. Was it a co-owned home as well?
Do not believe so, no.
No, this is a rental home with a.
That's deemed
Elderly.
unsuitable to live in, correct? This is correct.
Yes.
And he's not the homeowner. I just wanted to get that out there. I just wanted.
No, okay, back to this.
Sorry.
No, you're
Sorry.
okay.
I just wanted specifics to be legitimized and known.
You do have pictures?
I do, just of my injuries afterwards. That's so.
Here.
I'm sorry, can you clarify, what was the original dispatch call for?
A dog bite as well as a barricaded individual. So the individual, as it was explained to me by Officer Chia, was asked to leave by the homeowner or the individual living in that home. That individual was then bitten by the dog and then locked himself in the garage until we arrived.
The homeowner was the one who made the call originally?
Yes.
The individual who had possession of the dog had been residing in the trees. And he was not a tenant of this house. There's no tenancy be there. So
It's the homeowner.
It's not the homeowner, wasn't the other dog, wasn't the other owner. Homeowner is, he was on his property.
I understand, I'm just trying to understand who made the original
The
call.
homeowner.
No. A woman named Jill that wasn't even involved in the whole incident. She lives at Foxwood Apartments.
Okay.
I just have
Yeah,
pictures.
we'll just throw them around.
So this is
Pass
just
them around.
the individual.
Officer Michaels, do you have anything to add into that?
Just that I was more focused on the dog side of things instead of the whole rest portion of it. But I mean, I can just speak upon the dog's behavior. I stayed on the front side of the house while they were dealing with the individual and trying to arrest him. I didn't even realize that Officer Baker had been bitten, but the dog came running around the side of the house. I was just standing there minding my own business and it came charging and barking at me and nipping and jumping. Apparently after I realized that the dog had already been pepper sprayed and it was still, being aggressive towards me. And I also pepper sprayed it, which deterred it. But when we finally got animal control to come out there, the homeowner had gotten a leash on the dog and immediately when they opened the door, just came charging right back out and tried to bite, SRO Hackett as well. But they were able to contain it because it was on a leash, so
The dog tastes.
it's never
No.
tased, just pepper sprayed.
The person that had possession of the dog was a joint owner or was not one of the.
He was the joint owner.
We'll take questions from you guys after they're done. But to your knowledge, who's the owner of the dog?
To our knowledge, it was the individual who had the dog in their possession. Yes, so.
To my knowledge, he had that dog for over a year, I believe. Just by himself, but
A little brown and white dog.
Yes.
Christina. Okay, yeah, so the possession had been a long time then.
yeah, quite some time with the dog.
Individuals that were caring for him were living in the Presbyterian parking lot. Last summer.
The issue here is really this dog ordinance that we have in place, which is if you got a dog that bites two people, have some options here to go along with dog. The council can correct me on this, but essentially it's the question of the dog, so the ownership or kinds of things. You have two dog bites. Ordinance deals with fighting. If you have two dog bites, the dog can be put down. It's now, ownership is not an issue.
That's correct. It goes with
No, I was just trying to clarify that.
Well, I understand.
Thank you. Gentlemen. Before they sit down, did you guys have any more questions?
I did not.
One thing we do is see file the reports.
Okay, so do we need a motion to receive and file those? Can I get a motion to receive and file these pictures as well as the police report? Do we need to vote on that? We'll have you come next. Jackie?
Councilmember Richardson.
Aye.
Dalby.
Aye.
Armstrong.
Aye.
Beach. Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen. Dylan, if you'd like to come and state your full name and your address, give us your address.
I'm Dylan Ronald Wilson, address 603 West Boston Avenue, Indianola, Iowa, 50155. I am the co-owner of this dog that is being questioned right now for his viciousness. When I had the dog, I didn't even put a leash on him. There's no leash law in Iowa, or there wasn't at the time. The law was that if your dog is under control, then it's free to do what your dog does, right? Which all the police officers at the time in this town knew who my dog was, knew my dog was a good dog. However, I was not a good person at the time. I got arrested October 15, 2020, went on a high-speed chase in a stolen vehicle. Now I'm currently on probation for that. When I got out, I didn't have a place for the dog. The co-owner of the dog was in a better place in life than I was, so I let him keep him. I got out March 2nd, 2021. So it's been well over a year. It's been 3 years, actually. However, once I got to a position where I could get the dog back, the other owner tried to do a little whoop-de-doo and get him as a service animal. So I couldn't take my dog back, right? So it's his service animal because he wanted to have the dog everywhere he went, right? Because that was his form of security. That was his form of compassion, somebody to bond with, somebody to care about him, because he didn't feel like nobody cared about him. He's got mental health issues, but that's neither here nor there. However, you said you want to request the pictures. I would like for you to request all the trial information so you get the whole viewpoint. Because if I were to be sicked on somebody, because my report that I got was that my dog was sicked on Jerry Burrell, the victim, correct? If I'm sicked on you, ma'am, I'm not going to attack you from behind. If somebody's attacking you, I'm going to pull them off you from behind, correct? So there's that. 2, the officer getting bit. I apologize. I'm glad you're okay. The dog did go through quarantine for 10 days. He's not rabid. I'm requesting, instead of you guys going through the whole getting the information and the pictures and all the police reports, I request, and you can say no, a muzzle on the dog outside of the home.
And that's not the way the code is written.
I know the code says 2 humans, right? If 2 humans are bit.
Or animals.
However, the whole police report was falsified. So,
It's all on body camera and you were free
no,
to
that's,
request the body camera.
that's fine, that's fine. I understand that. I'm saying that the police being called there. Because the same story was that I got today from somebody else that heard the story was that Jerry had to cut a hole in the garage and drag Chris out. And then that's what Jerry was telling people. See, Jerry's an alcoholic, right? Which I have no room to talk. Okay. We all have our own issues, right? However, I don't think it's right that a man gets to live in a house that's deemed unlivable and the police get to say that he owns the house.
It is past a rental. Besides that, that's not the fact that we're here for today, but that home has passed a rental inspection by the city. So the home is deemed livable. It is owned by someone out of California. Jerry pays his rent every month. This individual had been living previously in the trees of the woods.
I know,
and
but-
as well in the car, and the person sitting next to you can
I know
say that was not giving that dog a good life, unfortunately,
I
for the
know.
last year.
I know,
And
man.
has made this dog vicious. So our hands are to the bites. It is an really unfortunate situation. Jesse, no, we don't, does not involve you. So unfortunately, what we have to do is look at what the ordinance is. And unfortunately, that dog for the last year has been, how long, Christina? It's been over a year since we observed it living in the church parking lot and in the public where children are at. And so we have to consider those risks of when a dog is trained this way and
Of course.
regardless of breed.
He wasn't trained that way, Chris.
Jesse, please, no.
Sorry, I apologize.
You're okay, Dylan.
That's
I
fine.
really do appreciate it. And I know that this is a hard situation to be, but do you have anything else to contribute and then?
I just, I don't want to prolong it. I mean, if you guys are gonna make your decision, you don't have to make it in 2 weeks or on June 1st. You want to make a decision based off the code, I told you all the evidence. I told you everything about it. You guys know the story. If you want to make your decision, can you please make it tonight? So that way I could just deal with it and not have to wait 2 weeks to worry about my dogs getting down. Please,
We'll have a resolution this evening and
thank you. That's all.
again, body cameras are welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
I don't know that I have questions. I mean, I have some issues with this whole thing. Now when to talk about it or?
So motion, first and second motion to close.
It's open to public comment, correct?
Yes.
May I speak?
Sure, we are still in the.
Hi. My name is Emily O'Hagan. I'm an animal caretaker at Kayakota where the dog was being quarantined. I'm not here to represent Kayakota and I do not claim to speak on their behalf. However, it is through my work with them that I came to meet Dylan. And as we gather here today to address this unfortunate event, I think it's crucial to understand context. The dog was not acting maliciously or with aggression, but rather out of fear. He reacted to a very real threat that was due to his very irresponsible owner. So through my work with Dylan, after his quarantine, we've had many one-on-one interactions, both in our yards and in our kennels. He's repeatedly proven to be both patient and very intelligent, which is especially notable due to the intense circumstances that led to his quarantine to begin with. His unfamiliar surroundings and physical discomfort from the pepper spray used by peace officers in an attempt to gain his compliance. During his time with us, he continued to be friendly and has exclusively had positive interactions with our staff. I do not believe that this dog is a threat to the public. With adequate care and a responsible owner, Dylan can thrive and be successful. To further support this, I have documented some of our interactions with him, just photos and short videos for the council like to consider. So while the events of May 2nd were
unfortunate and deeply troubling. I stand before you to ask for your compassion and for leniency on his behalf.
Anyone else? who would like to speak? I get a first and second motion to close the public hearing, and then we can have some more discussion.
Second.
Jackie?
Councilmember Ray,
Aye.
Selby,
Aye.
Armstrong.
Aye.
Beach,
Aye.
Richardson.
Aye.
Jones.
I'd like to start off with that I have met this dog plenty of times last summer. I took your dog food and water many times last summer while it sat in that church and parking lot. It was not given a very good life last year, unfortunately. But I see that you care. And your dog is sweet. There's no debate about the dog I met 365 days ago was a very nice dog. I have not seen it. I want you to know that I have met your dog and it was not having a very good life and it was oftentimes hungry. So I took it food a lot. The bite, I just wanted to add that I think you met the dog too. So,
No. So I have real issue. Our definition of the vicious dog or vicious animal is an animal running at large, but without provocation exhibits aggressive behavior. To me, that dog had been in that person's care for over a year. While I 100% sympathize with our police officers who were injured, that's sorry that happened. But if it were me and my dog walking down the street, and I don't care if you're in uniform or not, you came up and were trying to do something to my body, my dog is going to react in a manner that is outwardly seeming aggressive. So, without truly knowing what actually happened at that home, between the person renting the property, the person who had possession of the dog, none of the officers can attest to what actually took place before they arrived. And I have heard multiple versions of that story. Some from people who I personally deem credible, some I don't know. But I have real issue with sentencing a dog, any animal, for the actions of its owner. I can't support deeming this dog vicious. I've met this dog.
This was Christina, you worked really hard on writing. You personally.
No,
put this
I
work
get that.
in, and again, unfortunately, we don't know how this dog has been treated by the people and what it's been trained prior. So that's why it's hard to see what has happened in the last year.
That doesn't. Yes, I took part in creating this ordinance, but I also stated at the time that I felt like there were still some things that needed to be addressed, and I unfortunately could not be at the meeting that night took place. It's in Minnesota. So. But I just find it very difficult to an animal, and one of the questions I had asked prior to the meeting tonight was had Kayakota evaluated this animal? Is it possible to rehabilitate this animal? So I do appreciate you coming tonight and speaking, even though it's not on Kayakota's behalf. Just knowing that you animals there, I mean, that me, we do have someone who animal. There is a possibility it will be rehabilitated. That's kind of where I stand.
Kayakota. Where's the animal now?
Kayakota.
It still is in Kayakota.
I don't think it should be returned to the person who had it. But I think if Dylan is the co-owner of this animal, then, and he has a place that he can take this animal and provide it a proper home, I think that's something we should be considering instead.
Dylan, when that person gets out of jail, is that person staying with you? Because his girlfriend is, or sitting next to you, was next to you.
No,
We'll have the same problem.
they've been broken up for a while. I just had her come with me because she is one witness to attest how he was with me. There's also like multiple officers, Alex Crabb. But I didn't want to pull the reins on those people. You know, I wanted to come as myself, plead my case as myself, because it's my dog. It's not Alex Crabb's dog. And, you know, but Alex told me if like a week before Chris did this, that he came to my PO meeting and he's like, you know what pisses me off, Dylan? I'm like, me getting in trouble? He's like, no, when I drive down the road and I see Chris Rapp with your dog, I was like, well, dude, my hands are tied because he went and got
With the help of the person next to you.
The certification for the dog or whatever, as a therapy dog or whatever he was to him. So my hands were tied from, I mean, I can't do nothing to get the dog back besides ask for the dog back. And he wouldn't give me the dog back because that was his only form of home. However, I don't have any communication with Christopher Rapp. I don't plan to have any communication with Christopher Rapp until he seeks his own rehabilitation, whether he goes to prison, jail, bridges, fort, whatever it is. So he gets back and reestablished and going into better progression forward from here on out. I don't want to have any communication with him. I do speak with his mother on a weekly basis. I speak with Jason Beard, his PO, or soon to be ex-PO once he gets revoked. That also has another concern of mine for this town, but I'll bring that probably to a different meeting. If I do get my dog back, I will be the only owner of that dog. From here forward, I will make sure that dog goes back to the way I trained him. I will keep him on a leash instead of letting him be free. And even though I'd be in control of him, I still will do the leash law. Where I'm staying, I could put up a fence, if necessary. I just don't want to see my dog, go because I named him Dylan for a reason. So. Me too.
And don't let anything get you up that path.
Right.
Is there any other questions?
This may be for Doug. What kind of options do we have here?
Yes, several. The ordinance itself provides that privately sold houses, which if you plan so basically some of it for you find it's not an issue zone. Our ordinance says individuals on two of the so you consider this one case fighting two people to two separate states. The biggest problem that I have to think about is precedent, because this wasn't the only other hearing I can recall in the 70s child. So it's much more serious, but so you always have to consider what could happen. But you could make that in this case. You could make that. Yeah, it's actually pretty strict, but so you can make it in, or you can just say you don't sell it to someone else.
If we were to say this was what, how do we ensure where the dog goes? Do we have any say in that, or is this just leaving it up to dumb luck?
If you're saying it's not vicious, you have no control.
That's my concern. And then, because the individual who had the dog prior has this card He says it makes it a service animal. Once that individual is out of jail and come back for his dog. From the other party.
It falls into a civil matter when it comes to that, at that point.
I would say is that you could say in your decision, if you're, you say they don't look out business, but that's. Dog should not be.
I don't know the law on the continuation of that permit. However, I know licenses expire after like 4 years, 5 years. So I'm pretty certain that you have to
I'm not
reapply
even
for
sure that
that.
it was a valid card, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
I've seen the card. It was not valid.
I don't know,
So I
but
think that you would have a case.
and that card is more, it's not for ownership, it's more for public approval. To get into places, to take him to work, to take him. It's not so much as I own this dog, this is just my service animal. However, if it's a co-ownership, he just pretty much lost his rights as a father, you know, in my opinion, you know, but, I mean, if the dog bites another human, I'll kill him myself. I mean, if it comes down to that, you know, but I can give you my 100% guarantee that that dog will never bite another human again.
That's my concern. It's already bit two people. If it went out and bit another person, possibly even killed a person, that would be. It'd be on us.
Legally or morally, yes.
Legally or morally, yes.
Challenge, are we gonna let this dog be in areas, right, go back to like Rental was, there are young families that live in that area and there's kids around. I understand that it's a pet and I don't mean to feel that. And he was making bad decisions. That's what it comes down to, and we're put into a position that is certainly not an easy one to be in, but we have to look at what potential we're allowing, what potential harm we're allowing for other citizens.
For me, I consider it one. You've got multiple officers trying to detain the person who's telling the dog to attack.
He was one officer in the home. But still, it
To me,
it
it's
could be
still,
one
it's still one, the
situation.
dog was already in a heightened sense of awareness because of the situation that happened. Who knows what took place in that home that happened? So I guess that's my request of council is to just consider it as one offense and that we deem previous owner who is currently in jail no longer able to have that dog. The dog will be-
There's nothing we could do to require a muzzle, right? I didn't think.
You can require
He just said
insurance. Sorry.
Can we ask for the dog to be through any kind of training or?
I think we're going away from what we're supposed to be voting on
Yes,
here.
yes, I do agree.
I was
Yeah.
just curious.
Let's go back to what we're supposed to be voting on.
We're determining if it's vicious or not.
I know, which is.
Yeah,
what-
so
Which
let's.
is what I'm
Let's
asking.
bring that back.
Consider instead of voting for it.
No, we don't have a motion on the
There's no
table.
motion for anything right now, so.
Right now, we're just under the consideration of the determination of a vicious animal, which is where we're at. Is there any?
I'm gonna suggest here that, Christine, I appreciate your position, but I see this as two separate projects. I see this as, even though the owner was restrained and kicked the door open, caused the officers not to do that. And I am not willing to go down the path of allowing that animal to on our streets again and have the issue of actually whether it's happens or doesn't happen. Really say, well, be okay with that. Besides that, officers were put into danger. I'm gonna vote against that. And, so I'm gonna stick with the recommendation here. And if I have to make a motion, I'll make a motion.
Doug, can I ask you a question? If we were to go down the vicious road and deem it vicious, can we still put the caveat that we want it sold to like another organization, as you said?
Under 5602, an organization deals with vicious animals. So you'd want to give a brackets of time for that. And we shouldn't really kind of go to yes, you could do that, but say, you can't do that.
Motion's on the table.
I don't have a second.
I second it.
Second it, okay, so no more conversation,
Just,
how did you, I'm sorry, your motion was just to deem it vicious with no caveat, hold on a second. You already made the motion, so. No caveat, you just want it vicious. And second,
Second.
that is what we are voting on.
That was a question.
no, I wanted to make sure I was understanding the properly, so there's the option to put a time frame in place to be sold.
Steve said he didn't want that.
No,
He
I
was
understand.
being
I'm
vicious.
trying to catch up with you, Mayor. We let everybody else talk. I just appreciate it.
Definitely want you to talk.
That's an option we have. The current motion is not for that. And I just want to make sure that I'm clearly understanding this because again, this is an awful situation. People making bad choices and unfortunately life is not fair. to Make bad choices. So that's Steve's motion. It's either yes or no for that.
And then if we need to come back and we need to add a caveat to it of selling to another organization, we can. But the current motion is to just deem it vicious. Which would mean, Doug, am I correct, termination of the animal? Jackie?
Councilmember Stones? No. Dave?
No.
Bobby?
Yes.
Armstrong?
No.
No.
Richardson?
Yes.
Okay, so motion fails 4-2. Do I have a second motion? Here, a motion to consider.
Can I ask a question before we
Or
make the
do we-
second motion?
Yeah.
What are the timeframes? What do we think about do with these timeframes, Doug?
We've got to get a written decision out within 3 days. And then the animals, if you're gonna put it down.
Well, that just got put up,
So that would-
that's gone.
Say we want to recommend that it is sold to one of these organizations. What are the timeframes we can put in place for that? It can't leave Kayakota, and if that doesn't happen in that timeframe, then it is still.
But you just said it's not vicious. It's not vicious, we don't have any control at all.
I have to turn it back to the homeowner.
But Doug, that's what we were trying to clarify before we voted, since there was no caveat to this, that we were deeming it vicious, but if people wanted an amendment, say we want to sell it, you're saying now we can't even go.
Well, but you made, the motion was to deem it vicious and you voted that motion back.
I guess I misunderstood.
So I guess what I'm asking is your attorney, you're supposed to, when we're asking those questions, we're asking for you to explain that to us, because you didn't explain that that would be money. We're not, you clearly knew there was people who had other ideas here, which is why we were asking if we would have a different option to vote on.
Honestly, I thought it was very clear. I mean, we're considering what's in the agenda and the motion that Steve put on the table, it was to deem it whether it's vicious or not.
But we can still deem it vicious with selling it to someone else, which is
Well,
what.
that's the question. So, you know, that's going to be in the decision because there's that right under. the board. But we'll give them time to see that. The ordinance provides for that. If you want to have a motion now.
Anybody else confused?
Well, but here's the problem. You voted it non-vicious.
Because you didn't tell us otherwise, Doug, because we asked very clearly, if we vote this vicious, and then I've got 4 no's now, well, now we can't do another option?
No.
You voted it down.
Great, thank you. I guess Dylan, you're getting your dog back.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Hey, thank you officers for being here. We appreciate that. Probably wasn't the direction we were gonna go. I think.
Okay.
You have a motion.
You have a motion to reconsider. If somebody voted no, they can ask.
Yeah.
Does anyone want a motion to reconsider?
Yes, I would make a motion to
Thank you.
reconsider. Second.
Okay, we've got a motion to reconsider. Now what would we like to do
You
here?
gotta vote on that.
Got to vote on that?
Councilmember Dolby?
Thanks, Steve. I can hear
Aye.
you, Doug.
Armstrong? Beach? Nay. Richardson?
Aye.
Stones? Gray?
Aye.
Got a motion to reconsider now. Okay. Doug, if you want to walk through the verbiage of what it should be, so we're clear on this, that would be appreciated right now.
There were really 2 steps. Are you gonna declare it a vicious animal? When I declare it a vicious animal, you can direct it to be sold to an organization that deals with vicious animals. So Code ordinance. However, if that doesn't work, the only other option then is the animal has to be removed.
So that was my question that I've been trying to ask is then, what is the sunset on that time frame that they have to sell it? Can we dictate that in the motion?
Yes.
We have to say, is 6 months appropriate? Is it 3 months? What is legally, what are our appropriate timeframes?
I would say that shorter rather than long. Because right now.
Sure. So 30 days is even appropriate?
Oh, yeah.
It has to be sold to a specific type of entity because be adopted.
No. No, it's, you're being vicious, you just put it in a classification where you can't just give it to somebody else.
It has to be sold to a specific organization.
What are those organizations? How many are there in the state of Iowa?
They'll have to, that'd be on the property, the dog's owner. Make determination.
So the dog owners has to find a place to sell it.
Yep. Is it good? Yep. Cannot be others.
Is there a list of these places in 5602 that the owner goes to? Let's not vote for something that's gonna make it impossible for the owner to
Right.
accomplish.
That's one of the problems I think is that they're gonna have to find a place that harbors fish. I don't know who the places are, and we don't know.
So in fairness, though, that's not necessarily ours to follow. We are trying to figure out an option for an animal that has been potentially put in a bad situation, and we want to prevent it from putting any of our citizens in another bad situation. The motion's made and there's 30 days to figure that out. If it's not done in 30 days, that's not on us. We've given an option. And at that point, the rest of the code follows out, correct?
Yes.
The dog is put down after 30 days.
This is where personally I was trying to get before. I apologize. I must have gotten lost and that's on me. Apologize for everybody.
No, I think it was lost on all of us.
And so if we're ready for a motion, I can try to fashion one, or if there's more discussion needs to happen.
I would,
Bear with me as I fashion a motion.
I would just like to say that I think doing that without having nothing in 5602 that gives businesses that do this.
Second Chance Dog Rescue does take dogs that have been deemed vicious by bite.
But they just said that it has to be sold.
I don't. It could be for $1.
Yeah.
It could be for 50 cents. They could give it to them. But I think we definitely don't want them to have off-site transfer.
I don't know about the state of Iowa, but I know in Utah, there's Best Friends Animal Sanctuary that does just this. So I'm sure there's sanctuaries in other parts of.
And that is an option with Second Chance Dog Rescue. If you were able to give the dog to them, you can still have that relationship and go visit the dog.
Would that be located?
You'd have to find one.
You'll have to
Yeah.
find it.
That is right out of parole.
Oh, that's by
Well, I-
south of Martinsdale.
And that's called Second Chance Dog Rescue. Okay, so is a motion made?
The first one has to be to declare it vicious.
It's just with that caveat,
That's the
correct?
second vote.
We can make it all. in one.
You wanna make it all in one?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's, I think, where we got screwed up the first time. So I would be making a motion to deem this animal in fact vicious. We would be recommending, but putting in place that there's 30 days to find an organization that houses vicious animals. That if that can be found within 30 days, the animal can be placed there by the owner, otherwise be destroyed at the end of that 30 days.
And I would also add that the city has a right to.
The city has the right to approve or disapprove that placed facility. Not the cleanest one I've ever made, I apologize.
I'm responsible for transporting that vehicle. Transporting by vehicle, that animal to that shelter.
No, I don't believe that's
It will
Kayakota.
never leave Kayakota until it's picked up.
Deem vicious with the sale to
30 days.
for 30 days. Surrender.
Transfer of ownership.
Okay, Jackie.
Councilmember Dalby,
You know, yes.
Armstrong,
Aye.
Page. Richardson,
Yes.
Jones. Wade,
Right.
Okay, motion passes. Moving on to the next item on the agenda is city manager's report with Ben Williams.
I'll keep it really short. I mentioned to the council in my weekly report, great work that's going on by our community development department for the Main Street, Iowa. A lot of meetings are being held with business owners all over town to get letters of support and to get financial donations towards that program. The application is due Friday, and so great efforts going on there. This Wednesday, we are accepting an award. Our water reclamation facility received a prominent engineering award in the state of Iowa. And so that is a great thing for our crews and for the investment that our city has made. Of course, we've already mentioned the dementia issue with the police department and the great work they did there, and the hazmat issue with the fire department, and the great work they did there. Regions Bank, also I mentioned in my report, has had some leaks in the roof. We took an inspection of it today. The patches that were in there today looked really pretty good, and there wasn't a lot of leaking after such a strong rainstorm last night, just a few drips here and there. But it has been a perpetual problem over and over, so much so that Regions Bank has brought in their disaster wagon that they use in federal disasters, and they've been operating today out of the parking lot there. We are looking at getting bids to replace the entire roof, knowing that we are going to have to relocate, take care of Regions Bank needs now, but relocate our police department into that building in the future. And so we're looking at the most cost-effective options to do that. So to the community, that's why there's a Regions Bank truck in the.
A quick comment. So last year, there was an apartment that was renovated on the square that had a flat roof, and they had a company out of Ames, I believe, that gave a really good estimate and did a good job. So I think we should follow up with that landlord, find out who that was.
Sarah. Got the new roof, Sarah. She got it in our grant program.
All right. Thank you for the tip.
You're welcome. Yeah, say 6 months.
We've just been chasing this leak, and every time we fix it, we don't know until it's leaking. It's just been very hard on Regions Bank, so we call this.
I mentioned something on Main Street. If any of you haven't sent a letter, you should. Right?
Yep. The application goes out Friday, so anything we can get to them for support, both letters of support and financial support, pledges, nothing's collected until August, but pledges are, you're getting something to Charlie before Wednesday, Thursday at the latest would be. Yep.
All right.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Okay. Okay.